Hey, y'all, hey! This is Christine. You're following my journey through weight loss and sticking to routines, even though I have ADHD and plenty of other excuses to fail. So, we've been doing pretty good. Everything's been back down on the slide, but it was getting a little bit too much, I think. I was having some too many days that I was going under beats. It was basically just 2 days. And so, yesterday I woke up like fairly hungry, So, I started kind of just proteining down. I had like 10 chicken wings. They were the fried kind, between lunch and breakfast, or not well, lunch and dinner. And I had like steak and a little sandwich and stuff like that. It all fit in my beads, but it wasn't exactly what I'd call macro friendly. So I'm not even going to weigh myself today because I know that there's going to be a little bump and then another dip down. It's sort of like those, like a bear flag on a stock chart. You're going to go down and then it's going to be like a little bit aching up. Oh no, I'm back down again. I like having little break days like that. But then I don't really like them to go on too long either. I want to keep going on to my macro-friendly track where everything is on task and everything, and those cravings and food noises naturally go down, because we're trying to build a lifestyle out of this. This is not supposed to really feel like a restrictive diet. You're supposed to kind of follow your intuition every once in a while. My intuition wanted hot wings yesterday, so I had 10 of them. So what did I do today? Today I woke up and it was like I was still kind of on a roll, and I'm like, time to get off the rolls. And just a little bit, because we are actually on a diet, even though we don't want to feel like we're on a diet. And so this morning I went ahead and front loaded with the last piece of my prepped sirloin steak. So it was like a piece like this big, which I counted as a 5, and it definitely felt like a 5. But I wanted to feel like more full. I wanted to feel like I had eaten more food, just to kind of trick my brain into like accepting that like 30 or so grams of protein is a decent enough breakfast. So I went back to my handy little bag of psyllium husk, that little friend, and I was like, this is going to be gross. The texture is going to be absolutely gross. I'm going to hate it. I'm going to hate it. I'm going to hate it. But I was like, Christy, just do it anyway, And then I stopped being silly there for a second, which happens every once in a while. And I was like, you've got these tumbler cups, for shaking out your little protein shakes. Why not just use this for the psyllium husk and then drink it super duper fast before it has its hands to gel and turn into that weird paste, and it'll gel in your tummy. So I took my little tumbler glass. This is gonna sound like obvious, right? So I took my little tumbler glass that I got from Costco. This has like been one of the most useful sets with the pitchers, but the topped glasses are everything for me. And I took like a tablespoon of psyllium husk, and then I filled it up with cool water and gave it a good old shake, chugged it as fast as I could so it didn't have a chance to do that gel, and I swear it was like texture-free, like fiber packed drink, you know what I mean? Like, you don't really want to prep these. It literally turns into a jelly, and I can't think of many other things that I want to do it with. But as a straight just shot, this worked really good. I also took the suja greens this morning as a shake. So what I'm basically doing is I'm getting my most nutrient dense possible breakfast, and then I'm just filling up the rest with just some like basic empty fiber. So that even though I ate to a 5 this morning, I don't really count those suja green drinks as a point, but you could if you feel like it. I had super max nutrition, but my brain is also feeling really full right now, and I had carbs last night. I had carbs yesterday. Everything is fine. I don't reduce those. And now today, after I have this nice good breakfast, that should front load me pretty nicely for the rest of the day. Obviously, if I'm still feeling hungry, I'm going to go ahead and eat more, but I might go ahead and have another psyllium fiber, the husk shape. This stuff is actually pretty decent. That was not too hard, not too bad. And I do think I'm going to kind of use this a little bit to help me feel those 5s a little better. I do not count this as a point on the bracelet. And we're going to keep going, and like I said, we're basically right now, because I figured out that my issues had a lot to do with hormones. That triggers a lot of my binge eating. But it's not like, oh, I'm just bloating because I'm having hormones. It's because the hormones make me eat and then I bloat, you know? So if I can have the hormones, but figure out how to kind of trick my body into sticking with that eating plan, then it's going to help me not have that problem. And I've done this before. After a certain point, your hormones actually kind of switch up and start doing the opposite thing for you. Once you get into like that kind of zone for yourself, I don't know if you've ever had an experience in dieting. I've experienced toxic dieting since I was 12, you know, so, and this whole time, decades and decades, just trying to study the healthy eating habits of thin people, you know. But even thin people, when they're trying to do like a cut, will do techniques. You know, I've worked with people who were naturally thin. They still have, every once in a while, not all of them, but every once in a while, most thin people have some sort of technique to keep themselves on some type of frame set that they don't have to worry about. They might not respond to hormonal fluctuations the same way, so they don't have that problem, but they certainly will have like, oh, I went on a vacation, so I ate light the next week. I just like, oh, I just had a baby, so I ate light in order to get down to my pre-pregnancy weight, you know, things like that. You know, I've noticed that, of course, you know, they're putting themselves on different methods and stuff because they, you know, that's usually how they return to their basis. And then when they get back to their baseline, you just see them kind of eating along, you know, with their cheat meals and everything like that. I'm definitely going to start doing, I think, some street interviews just so that I can show exactly what I'm talking about, and just kind of show how skinny people don't tend to follow too much diet advice on a regular basis, but they kind of like subliminally sort of kind of follow advice at the same time. It's sort of it's almost like a paradox, only paradoxes don't exist. They're just something you don't understand well enough, again. And so when we see a paradox, we don't just call it a paradox and then call it a day. We see a paradox, and then in science we study that paradox until we find out exactly what the real answer is, and then we study that real answer against other answers, and we see if that's the realist answer, and we contradict it, or does that create any kind of other paradoxes anywhere else. Because it's all just one big jumbled chain in the end of the day, and in order to fix it, you actually need to eliminate paradoxes. And sometimes if you can try to eliminate one here, if it creates one here, then you didn't eliminate the paradox, did it? You know, it's sort of like the cause and effect chain of problem solving. I've been studying a lot of different theories, and that's another part of my other project, is when you're dealing with a problem and your solution doesn't make the problem better, then part of the problem is in your solution and solving the problem. You're not being appropriate. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, the problem's just too big, but we're fighting the good fight. You're actually wasting your energy. Real solutions promote themselves. They cycle through. Real solutions are not something you have to push and pressure, and they do solve the problem. You don't have to make excuses for yourself and say, well, no, this is just because. You're just making excuses to fail. And that's the surest way to fail. And so what we're going to do is not do that. If we see ourselves failing, we're going to say, oops, we're going to find out what excuse and eliminate that. If we see something and we're like, oh, it shouldn't make sense, but it does, we're not going to dismiss that. We're going to look at those things, and that's how we do our studies. That's how I've been doing my studies. I also wanted to, I've been coming out, I ordered new beads for the bracelets, because the one complaint I've been getting from pretty much everybody is it feels like they're dragging a hammer along with them everywhere they go. It's too much steel, you know. So I'm keeping the chains, I'm keeping the strength, but I ordered some wholesale beads. I got some green tourmaline, some tiger's eye, and some rose quartz, all for symbolic reasons, of course. And we're going to be lightening up these. I'm still going to be selling these more heavy-duty industrial guys for people like me who do go out and work, and it's just a lot of hard work. I've broken weaker versions of this exact bracelet, and I'm sure that my pretty little stone bead ones do not belong on my irrigation job sites while I'm out there digging through the trenches and everything. But I'm product testing. That's for all of us here. Anyway, I did want to show a nice little hybrid method because a lot of the people who I've been talking to have sensory issues. They don't want the dangly chain on their bracelet or their wrist. It feels weird. They don't like it, and they don't, and I'm trying to be respectful of that. We always look at our problems with some kind of form of solution. I like that you can put it in your pocket. I like that for me it's a little bit of a fidget toy anyway. If I get bored, I play with it right on my wrist. I sit there and grab the charm and stuff like that because I'm a fidgeter. But another option, let's say you're wearing some jeans, let's say you're wearing some jeans. You just take your little belt loop that nobody uses for belts anymore, and you just loop your little chain through here, and now it's my little dingly chain on the side. Now I have my little fidget toy if I want to play with it, or it's handy dandy. It's still within view. I'm still attached to it, so I'm very aware that it exists. And now I can use it just like that. So I've got here, I'm going to mark my 5, even though because I had my power fiber drink there, I definitely feel like I'm more at like an 8 or a 9. I'm not trying to push myself to feel like a 10 because that would make myself feel sick. And I'm also trying to train my body on like fullness levels of comfort, like where I'm supposed to feel comfortable, where I'm supposed to let down, where I'm supposed to pick back up. And so we're finding the balance. We're looking for our equilibriums, and we're making problems disappear with progress, with things that work, instead of trying to endure the problem and be like, no, this is a necessary evil in order to do this. We're taking our easiest path. We're like, oh, if not a bracelet, maybe a dangly. If too heavy, maybe something else. You don't like the jewelry at all, figure out another way to mark counting to 22. How about that? This product doesn't have to have a product. It's actually a concept. I have the bracelet simply because I have trouble forgetting what I ate that day. That's part of the reason I overeat. I forget, and then it's like by the end of the day I'm like, oh shoot, like, you definitely had like a fair amount of calories. That was not good for you, So anyhow, when we do this, I've noticed that my problems start actually going away, that I actually receive progress for them. I actually receive the consistency that I desire because I get the desired results. Adding things like green juice is helping my skin look even better. I've been doing my facial routines, and I've been trying to work on doing more of these neck massages and stuff. Like right behind this ear, I noticed a really tight spot. So I've been trying to kind of work that out, which is helping with any kind of like jaw tension, that's helping with stress, that's helping with just everything, my sleep, my body pain. And I find that when we finally find the correct alignment with our solutions, the problems melt away. And so we are still in the process of doing this. I am a student, not just a teacher. I'm mostly a student. We are just following my progress, and I'm going to see how it goes. But it is going very, very well, and I hope you're treating yourself very, very well today. Cheers.